in a second. So hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Looks like we have a really large group already, so it sounds like this is a really important topic. So we're very glad that you've all joined us today. So this is the Clinical and Translational Science Institute's Now What? All Things Research Collaborative call. So we're so excited to have you all. My name is Abby Fisher. I'm a research project manager and what we call a research navigator with the CTSI. I just have a few brief housekeeping announcements, and then we'll get into introductions of our presenters and everybody who contributed to today's presentation, which is many, many folks. So the first thing that we are asking for you to do is because we have so many people and we're not going to do individual introductions. We'd love for you to put your name and your email address in the chat box. If you'd like to put the campus that you're joining from and or your title, that would be really great so we can kind of get to know each other. And if you are joining with multiple folks, like you may all be sitting in the same office together, if you could put their names in there in the chat as well, because that's helpful for us to know how many people are here and for our attendance. So, and make sure that you all get credit for joining if you want some credit for joining us today. We ask that you please stay muted unless you're speaking, so you can use the chat at any time during the presentation for communicating, but we also hope to have a pretty long Q&A session at the end for questions. Closed captioning is enabled, so if you'd like to use it, there should be a button near the bottom of your screen. It might be under the More tab to turn on the closed captioning. And if you have any questions, you can pop that in the chat and we'll try to help you out there. And as I mentioned, we are recording the sessions for educational and quality improvement purposes, and we will share all the materials today. We have a PowerPoint and a one-pager, and we'll also make the videos available when we're able to get those finalized with everybody here. We also have a SharePoint site, which you all should have access to as long as you have a Penn State University account. And as I mentioned, we'll put the videos, we have a YouTube playlist that we will add the video to. So we are also using an all teach, all learn philosophy in the ECHO model, if you've heard of the ECHO model. So anybody can share questions, comments, experiences. We really want to learn what folks are doing at each of the campuses. And we will be on a first name basis during our sessions. So today's topic is compensating research participants, which we know can be a little confusing at times. But before we officially get started, I'm going to introduce our hub, our planning team, and then some of our guests who have really been helpful in putting together the presentation and making sure that we're sharing accurate information. So I'm going to start with Jess Petrie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jess Petrie, and I am the coordinator for the KL2 program.
Welcome. And she's also taking attendance, so we really appreciate everyone putting their names in the chat. And Erica.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all so much for coming today. My name is Erica. I'm going to be our speaker this morning. I'm a research program manager here at the Department of Medicine, and also a program assistant with the Workforce and Education Development Corps at the CTSI, where I get to do this exciting work with the Now What team.
Excellent. Before Erica introduces some of our guests, I want to acknowledge Alicia, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to get your last name wrong, Alicia from Penn State Harrisburg, who I've had the pleasure of working with previously. Alicia, do you want to just say hi? And if you could pronounce your last name, if you're able to unmute.
Hi. Yeah, no problem. It's actually not as hard as it looks. It's Wondolowski. And I don't have my camera on because it's not a camera day for me. So.
It's all good.
But
totally,
thank you.
Totally good. Thank you so much for joining. So Alicia and Kathleen, who I don't think was able to join us, work at the Harrisburg campus. So if anybody is at the Harrisburg campus or working with a PI at the Harrisburg campus, they are your best friends in this process. So Erica, why don't you go ahead and introduce everybody else?
Yeah, sure. So I would be remiss to say that if this was 100% a group effort from lots of different stakeholders in putting this together. And I'm very appreciative for everyone's contributions. So first, Tracy, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. My name is Tracy. I am the contract management accountant supervisor for the clinical trials at College of Medicine. And I actually am the supervisor of the person that does the entry for these clin cards. So any questions you might have along the way, just reach out.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. Is Rachel Lally here today? I don't know if I saw her pop on.
I'm here.
Oh, awesome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Alley. I'm an assistant vice president for research in the Office for Research Protections. We oversee the IRB office, which doesn't manage the clean card process, but it makes sure that the information is in consent forms and that people know where to go if they need exceptions and those kinds of things. I will also add that part of the reason I'm here is because it's been a years-long process to kind of modify RPGO3, which Erica is going to talk about, to better represent the process that she's talking about. So that is in the works. So follow the instructions you're given today, and hopefully that guidance document will be updated. There's some back end, tax office things that have been difficult to get straightened out. But everything Erica is going to tell you today is accurate.
Thank you, Rachel. Beth Connor.
Sorry, I wasn't really prepared. I'm finance in the department, and I'm, as always, concerned about research integrity, which includes finance, which a lot of people are surprised to hear that. So thanks. Bye.
Thank you for being here, Beth. And then last, Courtney.
So, sorry, my computer's having all kinds of issues, so I'm IFO 210 at the moment. My name is Courtney Wetzel. I'm a project manager here at University Park, and I also am tangentially related to the CTSI now, as I've just started helping out with some admin there as well. But I work in the Department of Biobehavioral Health as well as the Center for Healthy Aging, and I came over from the Prevention Research Center, and I also have some background in the IRB as well. And I have a lot of experience with participant payments here at University Park. I do thousands, literally, of participant payments. So I'm going to be giving some insight into participant payments for University Park.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Oh, and Abby, you're muted. I'll share screen now.
I was just going to say, you can go ahead and we're going to turn things over to Erica.
Yes. Okay. Everyone give thumbs up if we're all good. Okay, perfect. Move everyone out of the way here. Okay, so thank you all again for coming to our Now What session today. So our topic this morning is going to be, I need to compensate my research participants, now what? And so before we begin, I just kind of want to norm everyone to the focus of this presentation largely today is going to be on the compensation processes here at Penn State College of Medicine. Most of our attendees are at Penn State College of Medicine, and the process that we use requires, I think, a lot of explanation, particularly if you're a new research coordinator or new research project manager. But for our folks here from UP, from other campuses, don't worry, we're going to be highlighting those processes as well. I think yours are a little easier than here at College of Medicine, but Abby and Courtney are going to be kind of sharing about those. I'm going to largely be talking today about CLIN cards. And so for our session today, our learning objectives, by the end of this, I'm hoping everyone will be able to define what the Green Fire CLIN card is and just understand its basic purpose and why we use them here at the College of Medicine. We're going to go through a pretty lengthy description of how we actually implement these CLIN cards within a research study, and then, describe the process of how we actually get our research participants compensated using CLIN cards. And I also want to say, feel free at any time. Jess is going to be monitoring the chat. So if there's anything that I'm going through that you have a question about, please put it in the chat. Also, if there's a pause and you want to just, ask a question out loud, please feel free to do so. We're also going to have some Q&A at the end. So feel free to, save those questions at the end as well. But I definitely want this to be kind of like an interactive interactive. If you have things we want to pause and share and talk about, totally fine in today's session. So first I want to start off kind of why do we use Greenfire Clin cards for our participant compensation here at Penn State College of Medicine? And so this is kind of Rachel's expertise and why we brought her on board. And if you have further questions about this, I will probably direct them to her way since she's the expert here. But because of Penn State Research Protection Guidance, RPGO3, we have the Clin card process established at College of Medicine. So this policy really outlines the standards for the protection of human participants in research. And the guideline outlines the options for payments while balancing those IRS reporting regulations. And so out of this policy, the Clin card system was established here at the College of Medicine as our method for compensating participants. So for those of you who might be new to the college, you're just hired, if your study is starting, you might be curious, what is a Clin card exactly? So Clin cards are a reloadable debit card, and these cards can be used for both participant stipends and or participant reimbursements. So our stipends, those are going to be those payments to the participant for their participation in a study. Participant stipends do require a 1099 form at the end of each year by the federal government if that person receives more than $600. This is a federal guideline. Just to kind of give everyone a heads up, there's lots of different numbers I'm going to be sharing about guidelines and reporting, but our federal guideline for research participants for them to receive a 1099 at the end of a year is $600. Reimbursements, on the other hand, this is money that's provided back to the participant for funds that they've spent to engage in the research. So if they're traveling a long distance, the gas reimbursement, lodging, etc. And the Clin card can be used for both of these. So paying the participant for their participation in the study and then also reimbursing them for any funds that they've spent. This applies a lot for our clinical trials that happen here at the College of Medicine. If someone is staying overnight for a study or has a 2-day visit, etc. So how do I actually implement Clin cards into my research study here then? So during your study startup, so when your grant gets funded, you're going through, writing your MOPs, getting everything established. One of the things you're going to want to do is to register your study with the controller's office. And so this should be done prior to enrolling our participants. So this needs to be done in the study startup phase. You want to have all of this paperwork that I'm going to be talking about finished prior to, you engaging with that first research participant. And so the first step, if you've never used Clin cards before, is to email the controller's office at their Clin card email address that's listed here and request to be added to the Clin card Penn State Health Teams. This Teams is going to have all of the documentation that you need to manage your study and use the Greenfire Clin card system. One thing I want to note is in previous, when Clin card was first rolled out here at the College of Medicine, all of this paperwork and documentation that I'm going to be talking about was filed through the HersheyMed.net file system. The controller's office is strongly encouraging that we all switch over to the Teams. So those of you that still have access to the HersheyMed file system, please do not continue using this file upload to get your participant forms to the controller's office. We want to move everything over to this new team system that we have. When you are enrolled in the Clin card, you get your access to the teams, you'll receive an email. I actually, because I learned a lot during this presentation as I was putting this together, particularly about the Teams folder. I still had in my mind that we were using the HersheyMed file system, but once you send that email, I was added the same day. So it's usually a very quick process to get added to this Teams. And when you are ready to take your study and get all the paperwork necessary for enrolling in the Greenfire system, you're going to want to first navigate to the forms folder here on the Teams and download the Add Study to Greenfire template. It's going to be Excel file. I'll show you on the next slide. One thing I do want to note is that this applies, what I'm going to talk through right now, only applies to studies that are not partnered with the clinical trials office. If you are a drug trial, a device trial, or any other study that's partnered with the clinical trials office, this is going to be done for you. If you are like in my area of research in behavioral science or doing some kind of program where you're going to be compensating participants using Greenfire, you're going to need to follow these steps to get your study enrolled with Greenfire. So you're going to want to download this template.
Erica, can I just interject 1 second?
Oh, yes.
So I would just keep in mind, if your study is managed by myself or someone on my team, then we will automatically get it set up for you in the ClinCard system. If it's anything outside of that, then you know you'll need to fill out that template.
Yep. Great. Thank you, Tracy. So once you download the form, this is what it looks like. This is just kind of a screenshot of this Excel template, your Add Study to Greenfire form. You're going to want to complete the relevant information, PI's name, IRB number, IO is especially important to have on here. This is how the controller's office is going to, reconcile that those funds to the appropriate IO. And you're also going to want to include all of the information for your visits and or reimbursements. So both of those can be listed on this form. So if you have reimbursements, that you're going to be providing to the participant, as well as maybe various visits, a baseline, a couple follow-ups, you're going to want to list all of those here, as well as the dollar amounts that are going to be paid out to the participant.
And I just wanted to add there too, I'm so sorry, Erica.
Oh no, this is great, yeah.
But can you go back to the last slide for 1 second? So this, one more forward. There you go. A lot of people get confused on this page. So we don't need, so even if you plan to enroll 20 participants, we do not want you to put in the same visit schedule 20 times. It is one time for the whole study. And it's all potential payments that could be made out. So maybe they're going to get paid, but only if they complete 5 surveys. But they only completed 4, so they're not getting it. Whatever the potential is for that person to receive, because once they are entered in the system, each person enrolled will get that same drop-down list. So just wanted to point that out because a lot of people struggle with that.
Yep, that's a great point. Yep. Anything, any possible method of time point that they have should be listed on that form. And so once that form is completed, you're going to want to upload this file to the Dropbox folder. This is going to be in Teams here. I have it kind of highlighted in yellow there for you. And you'll receive an email notification from the controller's office when you're set up in Greenfire. And like I said, if you're working with Tracy and her team in the clinical trials office, this will be done for you. So you don't have to go through this step with uploading that to the Dropbox there. So let me move this out of the way. So actually getting your CLIN cards, now that you've completed that form, you're enrolled in the system, how do you go about getting your physical forms that your physical cards that you're going to be giving to your participants? So you're going to need to request those from the controller's office, and depending on the research that you're doing, there's a couple different ways that we can do this. So at the College of Medicine here, if you're not a clinical trial that's working with the controller's office, your contact is going to be Sonia Adams. Her email is listed here, and we'll share these slides with everyone so that you have those. She is on site for pickup on Wednesdays in the Crescent. And one note, we just want to note that, same day requests are not always available for these cards. So we want to, think ahead, knowing that pickup is only on Wednesdays, give yourself some time to reach out to her, set up a time for pickup so that you have those in time for your first participant. If you're working with the controller's office on your study, your contacts are going to be Ashley Yake or Samantha Mattingly. Their email address is listed here. Just a note, please do not email Ashley or Samantha directly to their Penn State Health email addresses. Use the email address for the CTO office that we have provided here. And again, with picking up those cards, please allow at least 2 to 3 days, for them to get the cards ready for you. Same day requests are, again, not always available for those. And be mindful when requesting the number of cards that you're taking from the controller's office. In our grant, we might write that we're going to have 100 participants enrolled in the study. It might be a good idea to just start with getting 25 and see how long it takes you to get through those, and then before requesting more cards. So we just want to be mindful of the number of cards that we are taking, because we can always get more from the controller's office. Okay, so now you have your cards. How do I actually get my participants compensated with these cards? So in order to be compensated or reimbursed for research participation, participants need to complete a research study participant payment form. This form can also be found in Teams. Again, that Teams folder is going to have everything that you need. And administration, completion of this form, and obtaining a signature is really going to vary across projects. So, some projects are in person, some projects are completely done, if it's a survey, completely done electronically. Mail might be the best case for some of these. Some things I want to note about this form itself. So the form is going to capture a lot of information about the CLIN card itself. You'll be asked to provide some identifying information about the card, the token ID. Those things all can be found on the forms themselves. That section B is going to have the general information about the participant, their name, their study number, IRB number. Again, so just we have good documentation of everything related to this participant and their study. That visit name and number, you're gonna want to correlate that back to the spreadsheet that you developed it the first time, whether it was follow-up 1, follow-up 2, baseline, etc., and the amount that they're going to be receiving. Section 3, again, or section C is going to have some of their personal information, address, etc. We'll talk about Social Security number in the coming slides, and then the signature as well. And then also your contact information as the study coordinator is going to be on that form in case there's any issues with the form that the controller's office will need to reach out to you. Your contact information is important to have there. I want to make one note about signatures, because I think sometimes the signature of this form can be a little confusing. Do I need a signature? Do I not? A signature is recommended when it's reasonable to obtain. So if you're having a face-to-face visit, it's expected that this form would be signed. However, it can also be signed electronically as well if that fits with your study. One thing that Tracy shared with me that I thought was really great is as long as the participant has signed a consent form and that consent form indicates the amount the participant will be receiving in that form that they've signed, that consent form signature is sufficient if you're unable to get a signature for the participant payment form. And Tracy, anything else about the form before I move on?
You know what? Yes. Section C, really, if they have multiple visits, if it's not like a once and done, section C doesn't need to be filled out repeatedly.
Yep.
If you fill it out once, that's fine. And I apologize if I missed you saying that.
Oh, no, that was actually I thought I had one last bullet, but yeah. So for return visits, they only have to complete B. Okay, so this Social Security requirement, I know that there are a lot of people sometimes have questions about this, so let's go through this. Participants need to provide their Social Security number on that participant payment form if they're going to be receiving more than $100 per visit in your study, or they're going to be receiving more than $300 throughout the entirety of the study or throughout the year. Again, the federal government guideline for this is $600. Penn State has a policy of $300 to account for in case they're in additional research that gets them to that $600 that we have this information available. An annual report will be run by the controller's office each year. And if it's determined that that participant has met the IRS income tax threshold and we have not we do not have their social security number documented, it will be the responsibility of the study team to reach out to the participant to obtain that social security number. When we are obtaining social security numbers from our participants, we never want to have them send this to us via email. It is always best practice to call the participant over the phone to get that information. If you are in a face-to-face meeting with them and say you forgot the participant payment form and they're writing down the information that they need for the form, and they write down their social security number, please make sure that it's shredded or destroyed in some way. The only place that we want to have that is on the form, which is then securely uploaded into our file system.
Thank you, Brianne. That was actually a very good point because Greenfire now requires, so even if it's a neuro study and they have a caregiver, you will need that information as well. So on the form, we've revised the form to include a caregiver or parent section in addition to the participant themselves.
Great.
And can I ask a question, Tracy, too? Because this comes up. You need a social security number, even if they're lower payments, but you want to allow that participant to log in to see the balance of their card. Is that the case?
Say that one more time for me, Beth.
You need to get a social security number, even if it's lower payments and the payments don't require a social security number, but the participant wants to be able to log in and look at the balance of their card, their debit card.
The social isn't required for them to look at their account.
Right.
They can do that, but yes, and I think Erica's going to get to the requirements, more requirements of when the social security number is required. But
Okay.
yes, they all have to add up to a certain dollar amount
Right.
to require the social. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but even if it doesn't require the social security number for the payment piece, a lot of people say to me, oh, well, I have to get a social security number because we want the participant to be able to log into their account.
Yeah, I find that not to be correct, but we can talk about that if you have a particular instance, send it my way and we'll take a look at it.
And this is all great. This is exactly why we like to have these, because there's sometimes so many questions that come up from all these different processes. So for again, going back to that research participant payment form, once it is completed, you're going to want to scan or upload that to the ClinCard team folder Dropbox. Again, on the teams, the payment will be processed and participants should receive their payment within 48 hours of uploading the form to the folder. If for some reason, if you have a participant who, had a long way to drive for their study and they really need that payment to come immediately, you can email the controller's office and that payment can be issued within 20 minutes. So if you're reimbursing them for gas or something along those lines and they need that money sooner than the 48 hours, you can reach out to the controller's office and they can issue that payment within 20 minutes for you, which is great. And that form must be fully complete for funds to process. So no participant will be compensated if there's missing or contradictory info on the form. If the controller's office does find missing or contradictory information, they will move your participant payment form to an incomplete form folder, which is going to be found again on the teams. And someone from the controller's office should reach out to you explaining that there's something missing on the form, something needs altered in order for that participant to receive compensation. It's always a good idea if your participant has not received their funds to just take a look at this folder and maybe see if there happens to be a form there with maybe some issues that you need to correct. One thing to note is please do not delete anything from this folder or alter anything in this folder. You'll want to just re-upload your new form and let the controller's office know that you've made the adjustments to the form that they noticed the discrepancies with. Okay, so moving into some kind of just housekeeping with the ClinCards, some processes that, you know, are really important while we're managing the CLIN cards within our study is keeping an internal tracking log of our participant payments. And so the controller's office actually has a template that's available for download in Teams, which I think is super useful in helping to manage and organize all of this participant payment information and collect and store all of this information that is incredibly important as you provide our participants with these payments. So it's very, very important that we have together, you know, for each participant, their ID, a token ID, and expiration date in the tracking of this. And a lot of that information, like I mentioned, can be found in the window on the CLIN card envelope. One thing to note as well as you are managing the CLIN cards throughout your study, some research studies do have IOs that change every year. It's incredibly important that you inform the controller's office about any IO changes for that year, because as you continue to you know, compensate participants and you're still including your old IO, that's going to cause a delay in getting your research participants their funds. So just make sure, you know, if you happen to, you know, your PI lets you know that the IO's changed, you know, make that connection. Oh, we got to reach out to the controller's office, let them know so they can update that on their side as well. So now I'm just going to move into some other questions about CLIN cards or other special scenarios. So what if the participant loses their card? There is no charge for replacing a participant's card for the first time. And there's kind of two different ways we can provide a new card to a participant depending on their scenario and kind of where they are, if they've completed their research or if they still have ongoing studies to attend. So if they are going to be having a new visit, you just need to notate on the participant payment form that this is going to be your replacement card. You'll need to provide the new token ID and the former token ID. And so from your tracking records, from that spreadsheet that you're keeping, you should be able to pull the old token ID to include that on the new form. And then the funds from the previous card will be transferred to the old card in addition with the new visit payment that they'll be receiving. If they do not have any upcoming visits, so if they were just, you know, came to Hershey Medical Center or just had, you know, one activity that they were engaged in and got a card one time, you'll just need to email the CLIN card controller email address that's listed here, provide that old token ID, again, from your records that you've kept, the new token ID, IRB number, and the participant initials, and they'll be able to transfer those funds to the new card. If a participant were to lose a card for a second time, this will result in a $7 charge to the study grant. So what do you do if you have leftover cards? So hopefully you've been mindful in the number of cards you have. You don't have too many to return, but those leftover cards must be returned to the contact that you received those cards from. So either Sonia Adams if you're doing non-CTO related research, or Ashley Yake and Samantha Mattingly if you're CTO related. Because these cards do have expiration dates, they should be returned so that we can use them for other studies and other departments. One thing that I think is really, really important is, you know, if you are writing a proposal, we strongly encourage you to think about your CLIN card processes now. So, you know, if you're going to be doing a study where you might need to mail your CLIN cards to your participants, they're not having a study where they're coming into the medical center, you know, when you're writing your budget for your study, you're going to have to include funds for, you know, mailings of those stipends. A lot of times we'll have investigators who just write in, they're going to be compensated, you know, for their time. And then when it comes down to actually implementing their study, there are no funds in the budget for mailing, et cetera. And so knowing that here at the College of Medicine, you know, CLIN cards are the approved method. We really strongly encourage investigators, study teams to, in that grant writing process, think about how you're going to be logistically implementing this into your study, because there are impacts on budget, et cetera. And also just thinking about, you know, how participants will be completing and signing the forms that they need to, et cetera. Beth, is there anything else you wanted to add about that?
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Erica, if we go back one more slide to the returning of the cards. I
Yes.
just wanted to add also that if you have extra cards, but you have a new study coming out and you need them for that study, you can use them for that. That is completely okay. They're not, when you pick them up, they're not tied to a specific study. So you can just pick them up and use them as you need.
Wonderful. That's good to know. Okay, some other things to note, there are certain fees that are associated with the CLIN cards. I think this is really important to let our participants know what, you can print out information like this and hand it to them when they receive their card, or even during the consent process, just kind of letting them know about the CLIN card. There's some ATM fees, replacement fees, again, that the study team can take over for the participant. But the one that I want to draw your attention to is the monthly maintenance fee. So if a participant receives their CLIN card and for 60 days, there are no new funds that are added to the card, say it's a one-time visit, or they've done 3 visits and for 60 days there happened to be no activity, and there are also no transactions on that card, there will start a $4.50 maintenance fee that will be charged from their card. So I would strongly encourage our participants, please use, especially if it's a one-time thing, please use your funds at least once, within the 60 days so that you can avoid that $4.50 monthly maintenance fee. Just some additional CLIN card information. So the CLIN cards can be used for 3 years. Expiration date is on front of the card. Again, if we happen to, you've had some CLIN cards that you've, held on to because you have a lot of studies happening, and your CLIN card that you give out may expire within the year that it's given, we can make sure that the participants get a new card if their card expires. But the new cards you receive from the office usually have about a 3-year expiration date. And those participant CLIN cards can be used across various studies here at Penn State College of Medicine. So if I am participating in a study in the Department of Medicine and maybe also one in dermatology, from both of those studies, they can be loaded onto my singular card. Additionally, if I, completed a study within the last 3 months and I'm going to be doing another study, I can let that study team know, hey, I have a CLIN card that I've used from another study, and they can use that information, that card, instead of having to give me a new one. The only thing is CLIN cards cannot be transferred from one institution to another. So if we have a participant who was at another university where they use a CLIN card system, we can't use those CLIN cards, has to be internal to Penn State.
And Erica, just so you know, the old cards had the date on the front. The new cards look like this.
Oh, perfect.
And then all the numbers are on the back.
Awesome. Okay, so what if I'm working with some international research participants? So if the participant resides in the US with a green card or a work visa, they will receive a social security number. And so if they meet the criteria for receiving a social security number, they can provide that if required. Participants who are on a green card or work visa will also need to complete one additional form in addition to that participant payment form. This is called an NEI, or non-employee information form, and this can also be found in the Teams folder as well. If your international research participant does not reside in the US, it's a little bit of a longer process, but that's okay. We can walk through that together. So they'll need to complete the NEI form, and they will not receive a Green Fire CLIN card. They'll need to be paid via paper check where they apply to be a vendor in our SIMBA system, and I'll kind of walk through what that looks like. So to register those international participants, again, not residing in the United States, we'll need to email the participant's name, email address, and then a description of the study to PSU suppliers at psu.edu, just letting them know I am working with an international research participant who needs to be compensated for the time in the study. Our PSU suppliers will reach out to the participant with the vendor registration link, and that will come from a company called Paymentworks. And then once that participant is registered, our AP department with the participant name and the vendor number can process that payment and send them a paper check. Okay, so we've gone through CLIN cards, but a lot of questions we get are, do I have to use CLIN cards for my study? So if you have a compelling reason not to utilize the Greenfire program or collect participants or track participants using social security numbers, tax numbers, etc., you can file a CLIN card exception request with the controller's office to use physical gift cards or electronic gift cards for your study. I'll give an example of the research that my team does. We're a national study working specifically with low income, low resource, underserved communities where we're trialing some advanced care planning interventions that are community based. So community members could be, 50 plus individuals get together, engage in these interventions, complete surveys for us, and then receive a gift card at the end. When working with these communities specifically, it was really important for us that they received a gift card that they could walk out right away and use. Even with the 20 minutes that the controller's office can do, logistically, with us being in a community where we don't have access to scanners or other things, that wasn't a feasible option for us. And so we filed for an exception and was granted to use gift cards in that scenario. So in order to, so if your study kind of meets along those criteria or you have a compelling reason, the process for filing an exception requires the submission of 2 forms. I do want to say that this process is going to be changing within the near future. I don't know, Tracy, if it's officially rolled out yet, but this will be a little more, not yet.
We are tweaking a couple things and then we're going to roll it out.
Okay, perfect. So it's going to be a little more streamlined than what I'm explaining to you. It's going to be done in Teams and a nice form in Teams. But for now, if you're at the point where you need to file an exception, this is the process you're going to go through. So these 2 forms that I'm going to go through are available in Teams as well. So this Greenfire exception form, I have a little kind of screenshot of it there. You'll need to provide the name of the gift cards you intend to use. You'll need to, write a narrative explaining your reasoning for not using Greenfire. And again, also explaining the potential impact if the Greenfire CLIN cards are used versus the gift cards you're hoping to use. And then outline your process and procedure for tracking that participant compensation. Outlining how you're going to be tracking in a spreadsheet, they want to see an overview of the procedural documentation you're going to be doing to manage the gift cards for your study. The second form that you'll complete is a research participant cash payment exception form. And so basically this form just needs signatures from the PI of the study and your team's budget administrator, which Beth, I might need to lean on you. I think that's usually someone in your department.
The budget administrator is the person that's responsible for the fund. So if it's a general account, that would be your FMA. If it's a grant, then it would be your GMA.
Wonderful. Thank you. And so just seeing that everyone has read and understands the RPGO3 policy and will abide by that policy in the compensation of your participants. If you are approved, please do not wait. Please wait until approval to purchase any gift cards until you've received that approval. And if you do, the gift cards need to be ordered through PSU Buy. And whenever we are ordering the gift cards, you also, prior to actually ordering these, need to create a clearing account through your department. So we have a clearing account for our study. These are typically account numbers starting with like 800, where the money will, where when you purchase the gift card, it will kind of be held on that account until the gift card is distributed to the participant and then is reconciled to the actual grant. Again, very important that you're keeping a gift card log. You could probably download the template from the Greenfire one and just kind of edit a few of the columns, but very important that you're keeping good documentation of the gift cards that you are handing out to participants. Your financial office will complete the JE entries for those cards, hopefully on a monthly basis. And then again, each year, the gift card logs must be submitted to the controller's office, again, for the 1099 purposes.
And Erica, I will add that physical gift cards, while you can sometimes get approval for them, they're really frowned upon using. We look more for the e-cards now.
And so here we go into e-gift cards. So these should not be ordered or, sent to the participant until after they've completed their visit. They cannot be pre-ordered, and they will always be charged directly to the study account. So you don't need to create, a gift card clearing account for those. Those will always be reconciled right to the grant. Again, good practice to always keep the gift card log, and those logs again must be submitted to the controller's office every year. And it's good to know that they're strongly encouraging these. I think it's a lot easier to manage the electronic gift cards versus the physical cards.
And let me add, Erica, Tracy,
Go ahead, Beth.
is just when they're ordering e-gift cards through PSU Buy, they must have the completed log attached to that order.
Okay.
And the logs, there's a blank generic one out in the Teams folder for gift cards as well.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Okay, so that was kind of the Greenfire overview. Any questions I've missed in the chat at all or anything? Okay.
There's no questions in the chat.
Okay, well, I will turn it over to Abby and Courtney to kind of share a little bit about the stipend policies and practices at UP and our branch campuses.
Great, thank you so much. So I will mention that we have, obviously, we have a large number of campuses outside of the College of Medicine. So the number one advice is that know who your person is, know who your Tracy or your Beth is at your campus, and ask them what the policy is, because this is not comprehensive. I just wanted to flag that, mention that we are not aware of it. Ideally, it's simpler at every single campus, but there may be finer points at each campus that is different. So, however, the process is generally the same and similar to what Erica outlined. I am going to go through this a little bit quickly, realizing that I just during the CLIN card conversation, and I had a number of like really finer point questions that came up in my mind as you all were talking. So I think what we'll do is we'll go through this. If we do have time for Q&A, we're happy to answer any questions. But if not, either in the session evaluation or if you'd like to email me any questions that may come up, we can put together like just a follow-up document that answers some of the finer points. But generally speaking, the process is relatively the same and can be applied to the whatever. It may look different, names of things may be different, but generally you want to budget for your gift cards, request the purchasing of the gift cards from your finance office or controller's office, actually purchase the gift cards in some way, either get the CLIN cards, purchase on PSU Buy, whatever you have to do, receive and log the gift cards, distribute them to your participants. That's probably the most important thing, at least for your participants' perspective. Log the distribution and then send the logs to the finance person for reconciling. So as I mentioned, find your person and ask them for those finer details. If you could go to the next slide, please. So, in a little bit more detail, so I'm going to fly through this because Erica basically outlined this process at the College of Medicine, and it's essentially the same thing. So primarily wanted to just point out that, as Erica mentioned, you may think that you're going to get 100 participants, but you may not. So you don't want to have 100 gift cards sitting around because the other campuses don't use CLIN cards, and you're ordering either e-gift cards or physical gift cards. They're less likely to be able to be reused for either other projects or something like that. So you really want to limit and only order as many as you need at a time. And you can order them multiple times throughout the study, but you want to minimize the amount of extra ones that you get. I will also mention, this is a super fine point, but I work at the College of Medicine, and I actually, the reason I met Alicia and Kathleen at Harrisburg is because I was working on a project with a PI at Harrisburg. So the rules for gift cards apply to the campus where the PI is and where the funding is. So even though I'm a College of Medicine employee, I was working with a PI whose budget was at Harrisburg. And so the Clin card situation did not apply at all. And so we ended up using e-gift cards in that situation. So I didn't have to apply for an exception. I was just using the rules that applied to the campus, the relevant campus. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So when requesting permission to purchase your gift cards, you basically want to send the following information. I believe that this information is pretty standard across campuses, but so you want to do your study IRB number, and the vendor that you'd like to order from. So in a lot of cases, we use Amazon, denomination, number of cards, the purpose of the cards. So if it's for coming in for a baseline visit or doing a follow-up survey or whatever that reason is, you want to make that explicit so they can have a record. And then the project IO number. So if it, in some cases, you may have the actual budget IO for the study, and in some cases, you might have that clearing account, but you'll want to talk to your finance person to make sure you have the right number. Sometimes you are asking for the information and getting the permission from the same person, but they just need to have a record that that you've made this request and that you're going to be ordering this. So you need to get permission to order them before you order them. And in many cases, you'll need to attach either like the email confirmation or some kind of documentation when you order, especially through PSU Buy, that you have actual approval before you can place the order and before the order gets approved. As I just said all of that for number 4. So sometimes your finance person wants to order them, like in the case of Harrisburg, they very kindly ordered for me. Sometimes you'll be given permission to order by yourself. If ordering on your own, primarily PSU Buy, I believe, is the recommended, although Courtney had mentioned some other options that they use at University Park. Courtney, I'm not sure if you want to put those in the chat, or we can make that information available to folks afterwards, but there are other options. So I'm just going to go through PSU Buy. There's a company called Blackhawk Network, which is the gift card ordering. You just follow all the instructions on the PSU Buy website of how to order those. And then when you enter the delivery email address, you should not ever enter any participant information in the gift card ordering system. You want them to send to you. Basically, if you are ordering, let's say 50 gift cards, you're going to get a spreadsheet to your email address with all of the URLs or all of the codes for each of the gift cards for you then to send those out to participants. So you want to make sure that you only are the one or someone on your team is the one getting that. You definitely don't want 50 gift cards to be sent to a participant that they can just use at their will. You still have to enter, even if you're doing e-gift cards, you have to enter a shipping address. And then it may just, take a couple of days to get those. So, and then you can send those out to your participants. If you could go to the next slide. So again, there's a similar logging instructions for each. I'm not going to go into the details of recipient signatures. Some e-gift cards, we were just able to enter their name, maybe get a confirmation email that they received it and document that. This process and what the log looks like may vary by campus. So definitely talk to your person about that. And in the case of the one I had experience with, a date sent may be sufficient if you can't sign it. The study I worked on, there wasn't even a signature on a consent form. It was an implied consent that you agreed to continue participating in the project. So we have documentation that they did consent to the study. It just doesn't look like a traditional consent form with a signature, but that was okay. You can also track gift card distribution. RedCap has a really nice reporting feature. So if you just want to do an extra check that you did in fact give everybody their gift cards, you can certainly utilize that in RedCap or Qualtrics, whatever database that you're using. And then return the log to your finance office when you're done with that. So that was a lot of information at one time. I know, I think we have a couple of questions. Chelsea had questions. I know there was some discussion. Chelsea, are you all good?
Yes, I did want to actually follow up because I asked, for those that didn't see the chat, I asked how if a participant reaches out to Greenfire directly for a clean card replacement. I was curious if that got updated in our system. I know it's recommended to go through our institution, as Tracy said, but we had someone just do that and we weren't sure if it updated in our system because I actually have access to Greenfire to make the payments ourselves. And it didn't look like the token ID or anything changed. So,
Yeah, so it's supposed to update in the system. The problem is that it doesn't always get the birth date and the funds transferred. So there gets to be some kind of disconnect there. So that's why I say it's recommended. Like, I know, like on a weekend, they're like, oh, well, let me just call the number on the back of the card. But sometimes that's more headaches than what it really should be. So it's a lot easier for them to just reach out to us and come get a replacement card from us.
okay.
Tracy, I know there used to be, when they were first rolled out, there was like an information form that was given
It's
to
all
folks.
out in Teams.
Okay, wonderful. Perfect.
Yep.
So
Yep,
there's like,
there's forms they can print out and hand to the participant. There's forms for just you. So there's all kinds of information out there.
great. Great. We didn't get into the finer points about UP and other campuses if they are getting more than $600, but typically it's usually clinical trials where they're doing multiple visits that are very, time intensive, where you are compensating for larger amounts. So I think that was part of the reason why we do that at COM.
So, and actually, while the government says $600 for a 1099, Penn State requires a social at $300 or more. So, and that is because sometimes people can be on multiple studies and one side of the house isn't talking to the other. And then by the time UP gets involved, there's no social. So we just made that blanket statement. It's $300. They are looking for maybe it to even go down a little further.
Okay.
But for now, the policy is $300 or more requires the social per Penn State guidelines.
And can I also add, these payments are line item details that show up on expense reports, which means they are audited. If you have a PCORI, you will be audited at least one point during the project period. And we have had to provide in the past when we've used gift cards, and this was years ago. But anytime, excuse me, if that line item comes up and it's audited, we may have to provide a completed log to the auditors. So, and I'm not saying where, excuse me, I can't talk today. Not to say this is, a big problem in our studies, but we've have had gift cards stolen. And so we just basically look at, again, who's accountable for these? Who do we go back to if we have questions from the finance side to make sure that we can provide all of the details to maintain the integrity of the research itself?
That's great. Thank you so much, Tracy, for joining. Yeah, really quickly, just one more point about that. So we recognize that you're getting like signatures and it's participant data. You never want to store, that's why we have a separate storage system. So you never want to store like patient names and information or participant names with your research data. So don't like put all this stuff in a non-secure database or something like that. Thank you so much, Rachel. We will definitely follow up. I was, like I said, was just thinking of the finer points as we were going through the presentation, but we'll provide more information. Is there a correct way to dispose of expired gift cards? That is a fabulous question. And I do not know does someone here know the answer?
Are you talking about physical gift cards?
I believe so.
If you're talking about physical gift cards, they must be returned to the controller's office. You can work with your finance person to understand the procedure and how to do that. And this is why we moved away from gift cards to is because people buy them in bulk, which you're not allowed to do. And then you have leftover gift cards, right, physical gift cards from stores. So we reuse them if you did buy in bulk and are not using, and most of the time we don't do that anymore. So you return them to the controller's office, and then you can go to the controller's office if you have a need for physical gift cards and ask them, what do you have available? What's the denomination? And you can get gift cards actually fairly quickly through the controller's office rather than having to order them if you absolutely need them and you have that exception approval.
Thank you. Yeah, my question was about the CLIN cards. I know there were previous studies that we've had that other coordinators have had them, and then we kind of find old CLIN cards and we're like, what do we do with these? So that's why I just wanted to ask that.
Yeah, I would recommend reaching out to the controller's office to see what they recommend doing with those. My instinct is that they might say to throw them away. You know, there's nothing we can do with them as they are expired, but they might want to have documentation of those token IDs for their records that they have, you know, which ones were not given out to participants. But I would just say to reach out to the controller's office and ask their directive of what to do with those expired ones.
They should be returned.
Oh, return. Okay.
Yeah, if you know you're not going to use them, I would return them to the controller's office so they can give them out again. If they're not close to the expiration date.
Yeah, Beth, she was saying for ones that are expired that like they
Oh,
found.
yeah, just return them.
yeah,
They can
okay.
log them as expired cards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. That was a great session. Thank you all for sticking with us a little bit over time, but we will send you lots more information about this, and maybe we can revisit when the new procedure comes out. I'm not going to go over all of the stay in touch, but we'll include that in our presentation slides that we send out. But May 21st is our last session of this series. So for the semester, we're going to take a little break over the summer and then come back in the fall. But we're really excited to work with the IRB on, I need to submit an IRB modification, now what? So we'll see you on May 21st. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much, Erica, and everybody who helped today.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.